The autumn rain drummed against the cracked window of the third-floor apartment on East Main Street in Columbus, Ohio. 10-year-old Marcus Sullivan sat hunched in the corner of his small bedroom, his knees pulled tight against his chest, trying to make himself as small and invisible as possible. The muffled sounds of arguing seeped through the thin walls, his mother Jennifer's pleading voice mixing with Travis's angry shouts. Marcus pressed his hands over his ears, but it didn't help. It never did. His sketchbook lay open on the floor beside him, filled with drawings of motorcycles, Harleys, choppers, cruisers, each one rendered in careful detail by his young hand. Drawing was his escape, the only place where he felt free, where the roar of engines drowned out the yelling and the fear. "You're useless, Jennifer, absolutely useless." Travis's voice cut through the apartment like a knife. Marcus flinched. He knew what came next. He'd seen this pattern play out dozens of times over the past 8 months since Travis had moved in. First the yelling, then the sound of something breaking, a plate, a glass, sometimes furniture, then silence. The terrible silence that meant his mother was too scared to speak. The boy looked down at his arms, covered by the long sleeves of his worn hoodie. Underneath, purple and yellow bruises decorated his skin like ugly paint splatters. 2 weeks ago, Travis had grabbed him by the arm and shaken him for leaving his backpack in the living room. Last week, it was for making too much noise while doing homework. Jennifer had tried to intervene both times, which only made Travis angrier. Marcus understood, even at 10 years old, that they were trapped. His mother worked double shifts at the Riverside Hospital cafeteria, but it was barely enough to cover rent, let alone save money to leave. Jennifer had explained to him one night, tears streaming down her face, that she was doing everything she could to get them out. But Travis had threatened her. Threatened to hurt Marcus if she tried to leave. Threatened to tell social services she was an unfit mother. Threatened to make sure she'd never see her son again. The arguing stopped suddenly, replaced by the sound of a door slamming. Marcus held his breath, listening. Heavy footsteps moved down the hallway toward his room. His heart hammered in his chest. The door swung open. Travis stood in the doorway, his face flushed red with anger, his eyes bloodshot. He was a large man, over 6 feet tall, with a beer belly that strained against his stained t-shirt. The smell of alcohol wafted into the room. "Your mother is crying because of you," Travis said, his voice low and menacing. "You know that, right? All her problems started when she decided to keep you." Marcus said nothing. He'd learned that talking back only made things worse. He kept his eyes down, staring at the worn carpet. "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Travis stepped into the room. Marcus lifted his eyes slowly, meeting Travis's gaze. He saw the hatred there, the contempt and something else, a kind of sick satisfaction in causing fear. "You're lucky I even let you stay here," Travis continued. "If it were up to me, you'd be in some foster home already. Maybe I should call them. Would you like that? Want to end up with strangers who'll treat you even worse?" "Leave him alone, Travis." Jennifer appeared behind him in the doorway, her voice shaking. Her blonde hair was disheveled, and Marcus could see the red marks on her wrist where Travis had grabbed her. His mother was only 32, but the stress and fear had aged her, adding lines around her eyes and gray streaks in her hair. Travis turned on her. "Don't tell me what to do in my own house." "It's not your house." "My name is on the lease," Jennifer said quietly, but Marcus could hear the tremor of fear underneath. Travis's face darkened. He moved toward Jennifer, and Marcus saw his mother take an involuntary step back. The boy's stomach twisted with helpless rage and terror. "Travis, please," Jennifer whispered. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" "You never mean anything," Travis interrupted. He looked back at Marcus one more time with disgust, then pushed past Jennifer and stalked toward the living room. "I'm going to Mike's. This place is suffocating." The front door slammed a moment later, rattling the walls. Jennifer stood frozen in the hallway for a long moment before she slowly walked into Marcus's room and sat down on the floor beside him. She pulled him into her arms, and he felt her whole body shaking. "I'm so sorry, baby," she whispered into his hair. "I'm so sorry. I'm going to fix this. I promise I'm going to fix this." Marcus wanted to believe her. He wanted to tell her it was okay, that they'd be fine, but the words stuck in his throat. Instead, he just held onto her and wished desperately for someone to save them. That night, after Jennifer had fallen into an exhausted sleep on his bed, Marcus lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic and the occasional siren. His mind raced, turning over the same problem again and again. How could they escape? He thought about calling the police, but Travis had warned them that cops didn't care about family disputes. He'd said that if they called, he'd tell the police that Jennifer was on drugs, that she was neglecting Marcus, and that the boy's bruises came from her. Marcus didn't know if Travis could actually do that, but the threat was enough to keep both of them silent. He thought about telling a teacher at school, but what would happen then? Would they take him away from his mother? Would they believe him? Marcus had seen enough TV shows to know that sometimes the system didn't work the way it was supposed to. The boy turned on his side and looked at his sketchbook in the dim light from the street lamp outside his window. On the open page was his latest drawing, a group of bikers riding together down an open highway, their motorcycles gleaming in the sunshine. He'd seen groups like that sometimes, especially on weekends. There was something about them that fascinated him, the freedom they represented, the way they looked out for each other, the sense of belonging. An idea began to form in Marcus's mind. It was crazy, probably stupid, but it was something. He'd heard stories about motorcycle clubs, about how they protected their own, about how they sometimes helped people in trouble. Were those stories true? He didn't know. But what he did know was that he and his mother needed help, and they needed it soon. Travis was getting worse. The violence was escalating. Marcus could feel it. The next morning was Saturday. Jennifer had to work the early shift at the hospital, which meant she'd be gone from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Travis was still out. He sometimes disappeared for entire nights when he was angry, drinking with his friends and coming back the next day, even meaner than before. Marcus waited until he heard his mother leave, listening to her quiet footsteps and the soft click of the front door. Then he waited another 30 minutes, making sure Travis wasn't going to come stumbling in. The apartment remained silent. Moving quickly but quietly, Marcus got dressed in his warmest clothes, jeans, a long-sleeved shirt, his hoodie, and his worn sneakers. He grabbed his backpack and emptied out the school supplies, replacing them with his sketchbook, a bottle of water, and the $23 he'd saved from birthday money over the past 2 years. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He scribbled a quick note to his mother. "Mom, I'm going to fix things. I'll be back soon. I love you. Marcus." He left it on the kitchen table where she'd see it. Then, his heart pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears, Marcus Sullivan unlocked the front door and stepped out into the cool October morning. Columbus was just waking up. The sun was barely over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Marcus walked quickly, his hands shoved deep in his pockets, trying to look confident even though his insides were churning with fear and uncertainty. He had a destination in mind, Maggie's Diner on North High Street, about 2 miles from his apartment. Marcus had been to Maggie's once with his mother back before Travis, when things were better. It was a classic American diner with red vinyl booths, a long counter with spinning stools, and a jukebox in the corner. But what Marcus remembered most was seeing a group of motorcycle club members there, their leather vests decorated with patches, their bikes lined up outside like chrome and steel sculptures. He remembered how the other customers had given them space, how there was an air of respect or maybe fear around them. But he also remembered overhearing one of the bikers talking gently to a waitress who seemed upset, offering to help with some problem she was having. If Marcus could find them again, if they were there, maybe, just maybe, they could help. The walk took him almost 40 minutes. His feet ached by the time he turned onto North High Street, and the morning chill had seeped through his hoodie. But there, in the parking lot of Maggie's diner, were 5 motorcycles parked in a neat row. Harleys, just like in his drawings. Chrome gleaming in the morning sun, leather saddlebags, and custom paint jobs. Marcus stood at the edge of the parking lot, suddenly paralyzed with fear. What was he doing? These were strangers. Dangerous strangers, maybe. What if they laughed at him? What if they didn't care? What if they made things worse? But then he thought of his mother's face, bruised and exhausted. He thought of the red marks on her wrist. He thought of Travis's threats and the way his stomach knotted with dread every time he heard the front door open. Marcus took a deep breath and walked toward the diner entrance. Inside, Maggie's was warm and smelled like coffee, bacon, and pancakes. The black and white checkered floor gleamed under fluorescent lights. A handful of early morning customers occupied various booths, an elderly couple, a tired-looking trucker, and at a large corner booth, the motorcycle club members. There were 5 of them, just as Marcus had counted from the bikes outside. They ranged in age from maybe 30 to 60, all wearing leather vests over various shirts and jeans. Patches decorated their vests, an iron fist gripping a wrench, the words Iron Brotherhood MC, and various other insignia Marcus didn't understand. At the head of the table sat a man who was clearly the leader. He was in his early 40s, with close-cropped dark hair graying at the temples, a strong jaw, and intense blue eyes. His muscular frame filled out his leather vest, and there was something about the way he held himself, straight-backed, alert, commanding, that spoke of military training. This was Jackson "Jax" Morrison, though Marcus didn't know his name yet. Beside him sat a woman with long, dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She was probably in her mid-30s, with warm brown eyes and a kind face that softened her otherwise tough appearance. Her vest bore a patch that said, "Road Captain." In this was Amanda Torres, the club's nurse and one of its most respected members. The other 3 members, 2 men and 1 woman, were engaged in conversation, laughing at something one of them had said. Their plates were loaded with breakfast food, and steaming mugs of coffee sat in front of each of them. Marcus stood just inside the door, frozen again. The bell above the door had chimed when he entered, and now several people were looking at him, including the bikers. He felt like he might throw up. "You okay, kid?" one of the truckers called out. "You lost!" The question seemed to break whatever spell had held Marcus in place. He walked forward on shaking legs, heading straight for the corner booth. The bikers watched him approach with curiosity and some concern. They could see the fear in the boy's eyes, the way his hands trembled despite being shoved in his pockets. Marcus stopped at the edge of their table. 5 pairs of eyes focused on him. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His vision blurred with sudden tears. Jack set down his coffee mug and leaned forward slightly, his expression softening. "Hey there, son. What's going on? Are you in trouble?" The gentle tone, the genuine concern in the man's voice broke something open in Marcus. The tears spilled over, running down his cheeks. His whole body began to shake. "Please," Marcus managed to choke out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please, arrest me." The table fell silent. The bikers exchanged confused glances. Amanda was the first to move. She slid out of the booth and crouched down to Marcus's eye level, her expression full of concern. "Honey, what do you mean? We're not police officers. We can't arrest anyone." Marcus shook his head frantically, the tears coming harder now. I know you're not. But I need help. Please, my mom and we need help." Jax stood up from the booth, his tall frame imposing but his face gentle. "Okay, son, it's okay. Take a breath. You're safe here." He looked at the waitress who had hurried over. "Maggie, can you get this kid some hot chocolate and maybe some toast?" "Right away, Jax," the older woman said, her own face creased with worry as she looked at the crying child. Amanda gently guided Marcus to a nearby booth, sliding in beside him while Jax sat across from them. The other club members gave them space but remained alert, their protective instincts activated by the sight of a terrified child. "What's your name?" Amanda asked softly. "Marcus. Marcus Sullivan." "Okay, Marcus. I'm Amanda, and this is Jax. Can you tell us what's happening? Why did you come here?" Marcus wiped his face with his sleeve, trying to compose himself. The hot chocolate arrived, and he wrapped his cold hands around the warm mug, drawing comfort from it. Between shaky breaths and more tears, the story came pouring out. Travis and his abuse, the threats, his mother's fear and helplessness, the bruises hidden under his sleeves, the feeling of being trapped with no way out. As Marcus spoke, he watched the expressions on the bikers' faces change. Amanda's eyes filled with tears, though she blinked them back. Jax's jaw clenched tighter and tighter, a muscle twitching in his cheek. The other club members had moved closer, listening with expressions ranging from anger to heartbreak. When Marcus finished, he rolled up his sleeves with trembling hands, showing them the bruises, some fresh and purple, others fading to yellow-green. "I didn't know who else to ask. I've seen you here before. I heard you helping someone once. I thought maybe..." He couldn't finish. The words dissolved into sobs. Jax reached across the table and gently placed his large, calloused hand over Marcus's small one. "You did the right thing, Marcus. You were incredibly brave to come here. We're going to help you and your mother. I promise you that." Amanda was already pulling out her phone. "I'm calling the police and Child Protective Services. This needs to be documented right now." "Wait," Marcus said urgently, grabbing her arm. "Travis said the police won't help. He said he'd tell them my mom is on drugs and that she hurts me and they'd take me away from her." Jax's expression hardened. "Travis is a liar and an abuser, and that's exactly what abusers say to keep their victims quiet. The police will help, Marcus, and we're going to make sure of it. Amanda here is a registered nurse. She can document your injuries. I'm a veteran with connections to victim advocacy services. We know how to do this right." One of the other bikers, a burly man with a gray beard, leaned in. "Kid, we've dealt with situations like this before. The Iron Brotherhood doesn't just ride together. We protect people who can't protect themselves. You came to the right place." Amanda was already photographing Marcus's bruises with her phone, speaking gently to him the whole time, explaining what she was doing and why it was important. "These photos will be evidence, sweetie. Along with my professional assessment, they'll help protect you and your mom." Jax pulled out his own phone and stepped away slightly, making a call. Marcus could hear him speaking in low, authoritative tones. "Detective Richards? It's Jax Morrison. I need you at Maggie's Diner on North High right away. We've got a child abuse situation that needs immediate attention." "Yes, the child is with us now, safe. But his mother is still in the home environment." "I understand. Thank you." He returned to the booth. "Detective Sarah Richards is a friend of mine. She's with the Domestic Violence Unit. She'll be here in 15 minutes. Marcus felt a strange mix of relief and terror. Things were moving so fast. "My mom, she's at work. What if Travis comes home before she does? What if he finds my note?" Jax's eyes narrowed. "What's the address?" Marcus gave it to him, and Jax immediately relayed it to someone else on the phone, then to the detective when he called her back. "They're sending a patrol car to sit outside your building, Marcus. If Travis shows up, they'll be there, and we're going to make sure your mother is safe too." Over the next hour, Maggie's Diner became a command center of sorts. Detective Richards arrived, a sharp-eyed woman in her late 30s with auburn hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat with Marcus, taking his statement with a recording device, her questions gentle but thorough. A social worker from Child Protective Services arrived shortly after, a kind-faced man named Mr. Peterson, who assured Marcus that their goal was to keep him with his mother, not separate them. Amanda never left Marcus's side, providing comfort and advocacy. Jax coordinated with the police, gave his own statement as a witness to the child's disclosure, and made call after call to various resources, domestic violence shelters, legal aid services, and victim advocates. The other Iron Brotherhood members maintained a protective perimeter, making sure Marcus felt safe and occasionally bringing him food or checking if he needed anything. There was Big Mike, the grey-bearded man who'd first spoken up, with patches indicating he was the club's sergeant-at-arms. There was Tommy Wrench Castellano, a wiry man in his 50s who owned an auto repair shop. There was Lisa Raven Blackwood, a tattooed woman with kind eyes who worked as a paralegal. And there was David Doc Harrison, a former EMT who now worked construction. They were an unlikely group of heroes, but that's exactly what they were becoming for Marcus. At noon, Jax's phone rang. It was the patrol officers stationed outside Marcus's apartment building. Jennifer Sullivan had arrived home from her shift and found Marcus's note. She was panicking, terrified about where her son had gone. The officers had explained the situation and were bringing her to the diner. Marcus's heart leaped. He'd been so focused on getting help that he hadn't fully considered how scared his mother would be. Guilt washed over him. "She's going to be mad," Marcus said quietly. Amanda shook her head. "She's going to be scared first, honey. But once she understands what you did and why, I think she's going to be proud. You took action to save both of you." When Jennifer Sullivan walked through the diner door 10 minutes later, escorted by 2 uniformed officers, Marcus saw his mother's face crumple with relief at the sight of him. She rushed forward, and he jumped from the booth to meet her. They collided in a fierce embrace, both crying, "Marcus! Oh my God, Marcus!" Jennifer sobbed, holding him tight. "I thought, when I saw your note, I thought something happened to you. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. We needed help." "I didn't know what else to do." Jennifer pulled back to look at his face, her hands cupping his cheeks. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, her face pale with fear and exhaustion. "Baby, you could have been hurt. You could have—" "Mrs. Sullivan," Jax interrupted gently, standing nearby. "Your son may have just saved both of your lives." Jennifer looked up at the tall biker, confusion and wariness in her expression. Jax introduced himself and the others, and slowly, carefully, they explained everything that had happened that morning. Detective Richards showed Jennifer the photographs of Marcus's bruises, explained the statements that had been taken, and outlined the next steps. "We have enough for an emergency protective order," Detective Richards said. "Travis will be arrested as soon as he's located. In the meantime, I need to be honest with you, Mrs. Sullivan. It's not safe for you to go back to that apartment." Jennifer's face went white. "But I don't have anywhere else to go. I don't have family in Columbus, and I can't afford—" "You won't have to afford anything," Amanda said firmly. "The Iron Brotherhood has connections with several domestic violence shelters. We're going to make sure you and Marcus have a safe place to stay. But my job will be protected under employment law," Lisa Raven Blackwood interjected. "I work as a paralegal. I can help you navigate the legal aspects of this. You have rights, Mrs. Sullivan." Jennifer looked around at the group of bikers, police officers, and social workers surrounding her and her son. Tears streamed down her face, not from fear this time, but from overwhelming emotion. "I don't understand. Why are you helping us? You don't even know us." Jax pulled out a chair and sat down, looking Jennifer in the eye. "Ma'am, I'm a Marine veteran. I've seen what happens when good people do nothing in the face of evil. Your son walked into this diner this morning, terrified out of his mind, and asked for help. The Iron Brotherhood doesn't turn away from people in need, especially kids. We're going to see this through, and we're going to make sure you and Marcus are safe and have what you need to start over." Big Mike nodded. "We take care of our own, and as of this morning, you and your boy are under our protection." Jennifer broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Amanda moved to her side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Marcus pressed against his mother, holding her hand. For the first time in 8 months, surrounded by a group of leather-clad bikers in a small Columbus diner, Jennifer Sullivan allowed herself to feel something she'd almost forgotten: hope. Outside, the October sun climbed higher in the sky, warming the day. The motorcycles in the parking lot gleamed, waiting for their riders. Inside, plans were being made, calls were being placed, and a rescue was underway. Marcus looked up at Jax Morrison, this stranger who had become his champion, and saw the man give him a slight nod and a reassuring smile. The boy felt something shift inside him, not the absence of fear, because the fear was still there, but the presence of something stronger. For the first time in a very long time, Marcus Sullivan felt like he could breathe. The Safe Haven Women's Shelter was located in a quiet neighborhood on the east side of Columbus, its exact address kept confidential for the protection of its residents. It was a modest 2-story house that had been converted into a temporary home for women and children fleeing domestic violence. The exterior was painted a cheerful yellow, with flower boxes in the windows and a small playground visible in the fenced backyard. Jennifer and Marcus Sullivan arrived there late Saturday afternoon, escorted by Detective Richards and Amanda Torres. The intake process had been thorough but compassionate. A counselor named Patricia Green, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and gentle eyes, had sat with them for over an hour, explaining the shelter's rules, resources, and expectations. They were given a small private room on the second floor. It wasn't much. 2 twin beds, a dresser, a small table with 2 chairs, and a shared bathroom down the hall. But after months of living in fear in their own apartment, it felt like a sanctuary. "This is temporary," Patricia had explained. "Usually residents stay between 30 to 90 days while they get back on their feet. We'll help you find permanent housing, connect you with legal services, and provide counseling for both you and Marcus." Jennifer had simply nodded, still in a state of shock. Everything had happened so fast. 12 hours ago, she'd left for her shift at the hospital with no idea that her son was planning something that would change their lives. Now, Travis was the subject of a manhunt. She and Marcus were in a shelter, and a motorcycle club was apparently their guardian angels. After Patricia left them to settle in, Jennifer sat on one of the beds and pulled Marcus close to her. The room was quiet except for the distant sounds of other residents, children playing somewhere, a television murmuring, soft conversation. "Mom?" Marcus said quietly. "Are you mad at me?" Jennifer was silent for a long moment, processing her emotions. Was she mad? She'd been terrified when she'd read his note. She'd imagined every horrible scenario, her son hurt, lost, taken by strangers. But looking at him now, seeing the intelligence and desperation that had driven him to take such a risk, she felt something else entirely. "No, baby," she finally said, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm not mad. I'm in awe of you. You're 10 years old, and you were braver than I've been this entire time. You saved us." "You were trying to save us too," Marcus protested. "You were working so hard, trying to save money. And it wasn't enough. It wasn't happening fast enough." Jennifer's voice broke. "Travis was getting worse. I knew it, I felt it, and I was paralyzed by fear. But you took action. I don't know whether to be proud or terrified that my little boy had to be the one to rescue us." "Maybe both?" Marcus suggested quietly. Jennifer laughed despite her tears, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Definitely both." That evening, the shelter provided dinner in a communal dining room. Jennifer and Marcus sat at a table with 3 other families, all women with children, all with the same haunted look in their eyes, the same careful way of moving as if expecting a blow at any moment. But there was also something else, a sense of camaraderie, of shared experience and mutual support. A woman named Carla, who had 2 daughters around Marcus's age, gave Jennifer a sympathetic smile. "First day," Jennifer nodded. "Is it that obvious?" "We all have that look on day 1, Carla said kindly. "Shock, disbelief, guilt, relief, all mixed together. It gets better. Not easy, but better." As they ate the simple but nourishing meal of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans, Marcus found himself relaxing slightly. The other kids were friendly, and soon he was drawn into a conversation about video games and favorite movies. It was such a normal, childish interaction, something he'd been deprived of for months while living in constant tension. Jennifer watched her son laugh at something one of the other kids said, and her heart broke and mended at the same time. This was what childhood should look like: lightness, laughter, innocence. She'd let Travis steal that from Marcus. She'd let her own fear keep them in a dangerous situation. Never again, she promised herself. Never again would she prioritize a man over her child's safety and well-being. Later that night, after Marcus had fallen asleep in his bed, exhausted by the emotional roller coaster of the day, Jennifer sat at the small table with her phone. The shelter had strict rules about communication: no posting on social media about their location, no contact with the abuser, careful monitoring of phone calls. But there was one call she needed to make. Amanda Torres had given Jennifer her personal number with instructions to call any time, day or night if she needed anything. Jennifer stared at the number for a long moment before dialing. Amanda answered on the second ring. "Jennifer, is everything okay?" "Yes, we're fine. We're safe. Jennifer's voice wavered. "I needed to say thank you. I know I thanked you earlier, but I don't think you understand. You and Jax and the others, you saved our lives today. I truly believe that. And I don't know how to repay that." "You don't have to repay anything," Amanda said warmly. "This is what we do. The Iron Brotherhood isn't just about riding motorcycles and looking tough. We're about community, about taking care of people who need help. You and Marcus needed help, so we helped. It's that simple. It doesn't feel simple from where I'm sitting. It feels like a miracle." Amanda was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, more personal. "I was you once, Jennifer. 15 years ago, I was in an abusive relationship. My ex-husband put me in the hospital twice. The second time, a police officer, Officer Ramirez, I'll never forget her name, she sat with me in the ER and told me that I deserved better, that my life had value, that I could leave. She helped me get into a shelter, connected me with resources, checked on me. She saved my life." Jennifer felt tears rolling down her face. "What happened? How did you get from there to here?" "A lot of therapy, a lot of hard work, and a determination to never be a victim again. I went back to school, became a nurse, learned to ride motorcycles, and eventually joined the Iron Brotherhood. I wanted to become the kind of person who helps others the way Officer Ramirez helped me. So when Marcus walked into that diner this morning, looking so scared and so brave, I saw myself. I saw my past, and I saw a chance to make a difference." "You did make a difference. You made all the difference. And you're going to make a difference too, Jennifer. You're going to heal, you're going to rebuild, and one day you're going to help someone else who's where you are right now. That's how this works. We lift each other up." After they hung up, Jennifer sat in the quiet room, listening to her son's steady breathing. She thought about Amanda's words, about the journey ahead, and for the first time in a very long time, she allowed herself to imagine a future free from fear. The next morning was Sunday. Jennifer woke to find Marcus already up, sitting at the small table with his sketchbook open. He was drawing with intense concentration, his tongue poking slightly out of the corner of his mouth the way it always did when he was focused. "What are you working on?" Jennifer asked, stretching. Marcus looked up and smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I'm drawing them, the Iron Brotherhood. I want to remember them." He turned the sketchbook so his mother could see. On the page was a remarkably detailed drawing of the bikers from yesterday. Jax in the center with his commanding presence, Amanda beside him with her kind eyes, and the others arranged around them. Behind them were their motorcycles, and above them Marcus had written in careful letters, "Heroes wear leather." Jennifer felt her eyes well up. "It's beautiful, honey. They're going to love it." "Can we give it to them?" Marcus asked eagerly. "I think we can arrange that." As if on cue, Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Jax Morrison. "Good morning. Hope you both slept well. The club would like to visit this afternoon if you're up for it. Bringing some supplies and want to check in on Marcus. Let me know if that works." Jennifer texted back her agreement, and at 2 o'clock that afternoon, a rumble of motorcycle engines announced the arrival of the Iron Brotherhood. From the shelter's front window, Jennifer watched 5 bikes pull into the small parking area. Jax, Amanda, Big Mike, Tommy Wrench, and Lisa Raven dismounted, each carrying bags and boxes. Patricia Green met them at the door with a warm smile. "Jax, good to see you again." "You too, Patricia. We brought some things for the Sullivans and a few other families if you'll have them." The bikers entered the common area where Jennifer and Marcus were waiting. Marcus's face lit up at the sight of them, and he ran to show Jax his drawing. The big former Marine crouched down to look at the sketchbook, and his tough expression softened. "Marcus, this is incredible. You drew this?" The boy nodded eagerly. "I wanted to show you thank you. You can keep it if you want." Jax looked at Amanda, and Jennifer saw them exchange a meaningful glance. "I'd be honored to keep this, son. In fact, I think I know exactly where it's going to go. On the wall at our clubhouse. That way, everyone can see it." The club members had brought clothes for Marcus, jeans, shirts, a warm jacket, and toiletries for both him and Jennifer. There were also books, art supplies for Marcus, and a prepaid phone, so Jennifer would have reliable communication. But the most unexpected gift came from Big Mike. "This is from all of us," he said, handing Jennifer an envelope. Inside was $500 in cash. "We know you need time to figure things out, and the shelter provides basics. But this can help with anything else you need. Bus fare, prescriptions, whatever comes up." Jennifer stared at the money, overwhelmed. "I can't accept this. It's too much." "You can and you will," Lisa Raven said firmly but kindly. "Consider it an investment in your future. And when you're back on your feet, you can pay it forward to someone else who needs help." They spent the next hour in the shelter's common area, the bikers engaging easily with Marcus and the other children. Big Mike told exaggerated stories about his riding adventures that had the kids laughing. Tommy showed Marcus pictures of custom motorcycles he'd worked on. Amanda sat with Jennifer and Patricia, discussing the next steps in the legal process and connecting Jennifer with a lawyer who did pro bono domestic violence cases. Jax pulled Jennifer aside at one point, his expression serious. "I want you to know where things stand with Travis. Detective Richards called me this morning. They picked him up last night at his friend Mike's place. He's been charged with multiple counts of assault and battery, child abuse, and domestic violence. He's being held without bail until the arraignment." Jennifer felt her knees go weak, and Jax steadied her with a gentle hand on her elbow. "He's really in jail." "He is, and he's going to stay there. With Marcus's testimony, the photographic evidence, and the testimony from the shelter staff and advocates, the prosecutor is confident this will result in significant prison time." "But what if he gets out? What if he comes after us?" Jax's blue eyes hardened. "If he does, he'll have to go through the Iron Brotherhood first, And I promise you, Jennifer, that's not a fight he wants. We've made it very clear to everyone involved, including Travis's lawyer, that you and Marcus are under our protection. The restraining order is just paper. We're the enforcement behind it. Jennifer didn't know whether to be comforted or alarmed by the intensity in Jax's voice. But looking at this man who'd shown her nothing but kindness and fierce protectiveness, she chose to be comforted. Over the next 2 weeks, a routine developed. Jennifer returned to work at the hospital, grateful that her supervisor had been understanding about her situation. The shelter provided childcare for Marcus after school, and Amanda Torres volunteered to tutor him twice a week to help him keep up with his studies. The boy had missed several days of school during the worst of the abuse, too afraid or too injured to attend, and he was behind in several subjects. But Marcus was bright and motivated, and with Amanda's patient teaching and encouragement, he began to catch up. More than that, he began to flourish. The constant state of hypervigilance and fear that he'd lived with for months started to ease. He laughed more, played with the other kids at the shelter, and filled sketchbook after sketchbook with drawings. The Iron Brotherhood became a regular presence in their lives. Jax stopped by the shelter at least twice a week, always bringing some small gift. Comic books for Marcus, coffee for Jennifer, donations for the shelter. Amanda took Jennifer to her legal appointments and medical checkups, providing moral support and professional advocacy. The other club members rotated visits, each bringing their own unique contributions to the Sullivans' recovery. One Saturday, Tommy Wrench brought his tools and taught Marcus basic motorcycle maintenance in the shelter's garage, much to the boy's delight. Another time, Lisa Raven spent hours with Jennifer, helping her navigate the complexities of the legal system, explaining every document and every court date in terms Jennifer could understand. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Jennifer struggled with guilt, shame, and anger. How had she let things get so bad? Why hadn't she left sooner? What kind of mother was she to let her son be hurt? The shelter's counselor, a psychologist named Dr. Raymond Chen, helped her work through these feelings in twice-weekly therapy sessions. "You're not responsible for Travis's actions," Dr. Chen told her gently during one particularly difficult session. "Abusers are expert manipulators. They isolate you, they make you doubt yourself, they convince you that leaving will be worse than staying. You were in survival mode, Jennifer. Your brain was doing everything it could to keep you and Marcus alive. The fact that you're here now, that you're getting help, that you're fighting back, that's what matters." Marcus also saw Dr. Chen for child therapy. At first, the boy was reluctant to talk about his experiences, but slowly, with patience and care, he began to open up. He talked about the fear, the helplessness, the anger he felt toward Travis and sometimes toward his mother for not leaving sooner. Dr. Chen helped him understand that these feelings were normal and valid, and that healing wasn't about forgetting what happened, but about learning to carry it without letting it define him. 3 weeks after arriving at the shelter, Jennifer and Marcus attended Travis's arraignment. It was Jennifer's first time seeing her abuser since that Saturday morning when everything changed, and she was terrified. But she wasn't alone. Jax, Amanda, Big Mike, and Detective Richards all accompanied them to the courthouse. As they walked through the courthouse corridors, Jennifer noticed something. People stepped aside for their group. Other defendants and lawyers gave the bikers respectful nods or careful space. Jennifer realized that the Iron Brotherhood's presence wasn't just moral support, it was a physical shield, a message to everyone, including Travis, that she and Marcus were not alone and not unprotected. In the courtroom, Jennifer's hands shook as Travis was brought in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. His eyes found hers across the room, and she saw anger flash there, then calculation. He opened his mouth as if to speak, but his lawyer put a hand on his arm, stopping him. The arraignment was brief. Travis pled not guilty. which the prosecutor had warned them to expect. But the judge, a stern-faced woman in her 60s named Judge Martha Holloway, reviewed the evidence summary and set bail at $100,000, far more than Travis could afford. He'd be staying in jail pending trial. As they left the courthouse, Jennifer felt like she could breathe more deeply. Marcus squeezed her hand, and she squeezed back. "You did great in there," Jack said as they walked to the parking lot. "I know that wasn't easy." "I keep waiting for it to get easier," Jennifer admitted. "Everyone says it will, but right now everything still feels hard." Amanda put an arm around her shoulders. "It's been 3 weeks, Jennifer. Healing from trauma doesn't happen on a timeline. You're allowed to still be struggling. But you know what I see? I see a woman who got up this morning, got dressed, brought her son to court, and faced her abuser. That's not nothing. That's strength." That evening, back at the shelter, Marcus was quiet during dinner. Jennifer could tell something was on his mind. After they returned to their room, she sat beside him on his bed. "What are you thinking about, honey?" Marcus was silent for a moment, picking at a loose thread on his blanket. Finally, he said, "I keep thinking about what would have happened if I hadn't gone to the diner that day, if I'd just stayed quiet like always." Jennifer's heart clenched. "Marcus, I think Travis would have really hurt you, Mom, or hurt me worse. I think something really bad was about to happen. I could feel it." Jennifer pulled her son close, tears streaming down her face. "You're probably right. And you stopped it. You were so brave, baby, so incredibly brave." "I don't feel brave. I still have nightmares. I still get scared when I hear loud noises." "That's normal, Marcus. That's your brain and body remembering the danger you were in. Dr. Chen says it's like an alarm system that got stuck in the on position. But we're working on fixing that alarm, remember? The nightmares will get better. The fear will get less. It just takes time." "How much time?" Jennifer wished she had an easy answer. "I don't know, honey, but however long it takes, we'll get through it together. And we're not alone. We have the shelter, Dr. Chen, Detective Richards, and the Iron Brotherhood. We have people who care about us and want to help." Marcus nodded against her shoulder. Then he said something that surprised her. "When I grow up, I want to be like Jax and Amanda. I want to help people who are scared like we were." Jennifer's throat tightened with emotion. Out of all the trauma and fear, her son had found purpose and direction. "I think you'll be amazing at that. You already are, actually. You helped us, didn't you?" "Yeah," Marcus said softly. "I guess I did." The next day was Sunday, and the Iron Brotherhood had a surprise planned. Jax called Jennifer in the morning to ask if she and Marcus could come to the clubhouse for a few hours. Jennifer hesitated. She wasn't sure about taking Marcus to a motorcycle club, but Jax assured her it was family-friendly and important. The clubhouse was located on the outskirts of Columbus, a large metal building that had once been a warehouse. The exterior was painted black with the Iron Brotherhood logo, the iron fist gripping a wrench, prominently displayed. But inside, it was surprisingly welcoming. There was a large common area with comfortable furniture, a kitchen, a pool table, and walls decorated with motorcycle memorabilia and photographs of club events. When Jennifer and Marcus arrived, they found the entire club assembled. About 20 members in total, far more than the 5 who'd been at the diner that first morning. The room erupted in applause as they walked in, and Marcus blushed, hiding behind his mother. Jax stepped forward with a wide smile. "Marcus, Jennifer, welcome to the Iron Brotherhood Clubhouse. We wanted to invite you here for a special reason." He gestured to the wall behind him, and Jennifer gasped. Marcus's drawing, the one he'd given Jax, had been professionally framed and mounted in a place of honor on the main wall. But that wasn't all. Beneath it was a plaque that read, "In recognition of extraordinary courage, Marcus Sullivan, honorary member, Iron Brotherhood MC." Marcus stared at the wall, his mouth open. Honorary member. Me? Big Mike stepped forward with a leather vest sized for a child. It was similar to the vests the adult members wore, but it bore only two patches, the Iron Brotherhood logo, and beneath it the words, Honorary Member. "This is for you, little man," Big Mike said, his gruff voice surprisingly gentle. "You rode into danger to save your family. That kind of courage is what this club is all about. You're one of us now." Marcus looked up at his mother with wide, questioning eyes. Jennifer was crying openly, but she nodded, smiling. Marcus took the vest with trembling hands and, with help from Amanda, put it on over his shirt. It fit perfectly. The club members cheered and clapped. Tommy Wrench brought out a cake decorated with motorcycles and the words, "Welcome to the Brotherhood, Marcus." There was food, laughter, and stories. The other club members introduced themselves, each one shaking Marcus's hand with respect and warmth. They treated him not like a child or a victim, but like a hero, because that's what he was. Later, as Jennifer watched her son laughing with a group of bikers who were showing him pictures of their motorcycles, she felt something shift inside her. The shame and guilt she'd been carrying began to lift, replaced by something stronger, pride. Pride in her son, pride in her own survival, and gratitude for the unexpected family they'd found. Jax appeared beside her, 2 sodas in hand. He offered her one, and they stood together watching the celebration. "Thank you," Jennifer said quietly, "for all of this, for seeing him, seeing us when we needed it most." "That's what family does," Jax replied, "and like it or not, you're stuck with us now. The Iron Brotherhood doesn't do anything halfway. We're going to see you through to the other side of this, to housing, to safety, to healing, to whatever you need." "Why?" Jennifer asked, turning to look at him. "I understand helping in an emergency, but this is above and beyond. Why are you doing this?" Jax was quiet for a long moment, watching Marcus. When he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. "I had a little sister, Emily. When I was deployed in Afghanistan, she got involved with a guy who seemed nice at first, but turned out to be abusive. She was too ashamed to tell our parents, too scared to leave. One night, he beat her so badly, she ended up in the ICU. She survived, but she was never the same. The trauma, the brain injury. She struggles to this day." He turned to look at Jennifer, and she saw pain in his eyes. "I was halfway around the world fighting for strangers while my sister was being terrorized in her own home. I couldn't protect her. When I came back and saw what had happened, I made myself a promise. Never again. I would never ignore or turn away from someone in danger. When Marcus walked into that diner, I saw a chance to keep that promise. I saw a chance to protect someone the way I couldn't protect Emily." Jennifer reached out and squeezed his hand. "Thank you for telling me that, and I'm so sorry about your sister. She's doing better now. Therapy, support groups, medication. She's on a path to healing, just like you and Marcus will be." Across the room, Marcus caught his mother's eye and waved, his face alight with joy. He was wearing his honorary vest with obvious pride, surrounded by people who valued his courage and strength. In that moment, Jennifer could see the future doctor. Chen and Amanda had promised her. A future where the trauma didn't disappear, but became part of their story rather than the whole story. A future where she and Marcus weren't just survivors, but thrivers. As the afternoon sun streamed through the clubhouse windows, casting long shadows from the motorcycles parked outside, Jennifer Sullivan allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in years: genuine, uncomplicated happiness. The Iron Brotherhood had formed a shield around them, and within that protection, they were beginning to heal. Winter arrived in Columbus with unusual ferocity. By mid-December, snow blanketed the city and temperatures regularly dropped below freezing. But inside Safe Haven Shelter, warmth radiated from more than just the heating system. It came from the growing sense of community and recovery among its residents. Jennifer Sullivan had been at the shelter for 2 months now. In that time, she'd witnessed remarkable changes in both herself and Marcus. The constant knot of anxiety that had lived in her stomach for so long was slowly unraveling. She no longer flinched at loud noises. She no longer checked over her shoulder constantly. The exhaustion that had weighed her down was lifting, replaced by something she'd almost forgotten: energy and purpose. Marcus's transformation was even more dramatic. The quiet, frightened boy who'd hidden his bruises under long sleeves had given way to a more confident child. He still had nightmares occasionally, and certain things, raised voices, sudden movements, could trigger anxiety. But he was learning coping strategies in therapy, and more importantly, he was learning that he wasn't powerless. The court case moved forward with agonizing slowness, as legal proceedings often do. Travis remained in jail, unable to make bail, which gave Jennifer and Marcus breathing room to focus on healing rather than constant fear. The prosecutor, a dedicated woman named Maria Santiago, kept them updated on every development. "His lawyer is pushing for a plea deal," Maria explained during a meeting in her office one cold afternoon in early December. Jennifer had brought Marcus because he'd insisted on being present for important discussions. The Iron Brotherhood had taught him that his voice mattered, and he was taking that lesson to heart. "What kind of plea deal?" Jennifer asked, tension creeping back into her shoulders. "They want to plead guilty to reduced charges in exchange for a lighter sentence, probably 3 to 5 years, instead of the 10 to 15 he's facing with the current charges." "No," Marcus said firmly, surprising both women. "That's not enough. He hurt us for months. He threatened to kill you, Mum. 3 years isn't enough." Maria looked at the 11-year-old with respect. "I agree with you, Marcus. That's why I'm recommending we reject the offer and go to trial. But I wanted you both to understand the risks. At trial, there's always a chance, a small chance, that something could go wrong. A sympathetic jury member, a technicality, who knows? The plea deal is guaranteed prison time." "But less of it," Jennifer said, "significantly less." Jennifer looked at her son, seeing the determination in his face. When had he become so strong? Then she thought about the Iron Brotherhood's influence, particularly Jax's consistent message. "You are not victims. You are survivors, and survivors fight back." "We go to trial," Jennifer decided. "Marcus is right. Travis needs to face the full consequences of what he did." Maria smiled grimly. "I was hoping you'd say that. Let's make sure he does." That evening, Jennifer called Jax to update him on the meeting. The biker had become something of a confidant and advisor, someone Jennifer trusted implicitly. His reaction to the plea deal rejection was immediate and supportive. "Good. That bastard doesn't deserve any leniency. And don't worry about the trial. You've got an entire motorcycle club behind you, a mountain of evidence, and most importantly, the truth. Travis is going down." "I'm scared though," Jennifer admitted. "What if something does go wrong? What if he gets out?" "Jennifer, listen to me." Jax's voice was firm but kind. "You've been living in fear for so long that it's become your default setting. But you're not in that apartment anymore. You're not alone. You have resources, support, and people who will not let anything happen to you or Marcus. You need to start believing that you're safe because you are." His words struck something deep in Jennifer. He was right. She'd escaped the physical danger, but was still carrying it in her mind. That realization was both liberating and challenging. She had to consciously choose to believe in her safety now. "You're right," she said softly. "I need to work on that." "Thank you, Jax." "Anytime. That's what I'm here for." As Christmas approached, the shelter transformed into a festive space. Volunteers decorated with lights and garlands, and local businesses donated gifts for the children. The Iron Brotherhood contributed generously, not just to the Sullivans, but to all the families staying there. On Christmas Eve, the club organized something special. They arrived at the shelter with a truck full of wrapped presents, food for a feast, and most surprisingly, a Santa Claus who arrived on the back of a motorcycle. The children's delighted screams echoed through the building as Big Mike, dressed in a Santa suit that barely contained his bulk, ho-ho-hoed his way inside. Marcus laughed so hard he doubled over, clutching his stomach. "Big Mike, I can see your tattoos." "Santa's been working out," Big Mike replied with a wink, flexing his arms and making his sleeve tattoos dance. "Gotta stay strong to lift all those toys." The celebration was joyful, but also bittersweet. Jennifer looked around at the other mothers and children, each with their own story of escape and survival. They'd all lost so much: homes, relationships, a sense of security. But they'd also gained something: freedom and the chance to rebuild. Later that evening, after the party had wound down and Marcus was asleep, Jennifer found herself on the shelter's back porch, looking up at the stars. The night was cold and clear, and her breath formed small clouds in the air. Amanda joined her, wrapping a blanket around both their shoulders. "You okay?" "Yeah," Jennifer said, and realized she meant it. "I was just thinking about where we were a year ago. Marcus and I were trapped, terrified, hopeless. And now look at us. We're in a shelter, but we're free. We're surrounded by people who care. We're healing." "That's growth," Amanda said with a smile. "You should be proud of how far you've come." "I am. But I'm also scared about what comes next. We can't stay here forever. Eventually we'll need to find our own place, rebuild our lives completely." "That's overwhelming." Amanda squeezed her shoulder. "You don't have to figure it all out tonight. One day at a time, remember? That's how recovery works. And you won't be doing it alone. The Brotherhood is committed to seeing you through, to permanent housing, to financial stability, to whatever you need." "Why though?" Jennifer asked, not for the first time. "I understand helping in a crisis, but this level of commitment, it's extraordinary." Amanda was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. "You know my story about my ex-husband. What I didn't tell you is that when I finally escaped, I had nothing. No money, no family nearby, just the clothes on my back and a determination to survive. But people helped me. Strangers became friends, friends became family. Social workers, counselors, a police officer who went above and beyond. A women's shelter like this one. They saved my life." She turned to look at Jennifer. "When I joined the Iron Brotherhood years later, I found a group of people who understood that concept, that we're responsible for each other, that strength means protecting the vulnerable, that motorcycles are great, but community is greater. So we help because we were helped. We protect because we know what happens when no one does. It's that simple and that profound." Jennifer felt tears on her cheeks. "I want to be like that someday. I want to help others the way you've helped us." "You will," Amanda said confidently. "In fact, you already are. Every day you show up, work hard, take care of Marcus, and participate in therapy. You're modeling resilience for the other women here. That matters more than you know." January brought both challenges and victories. The trial date was set for early March, giving Jennifer and Marcus 2 months to prepare. Maria Santiago, the prosecutor, worked closely with them, preparing Marcus for his testimony and making sure Jennifer understood every step of the process. Marcus's preparation was particularly intensive. At just 11 years old, he'd have to take the stand and recount what Travis had done. Dr. Chen worked with him on coping strategies for the stress, and Maria coached him on how to answer questions clearly and truthfully. "The defense attorney might try to confuse you or make you doubt yourself," Maria explained during one session. "That's his job, to create reasonable doubt, but you just need to tell the truth. Can you do that?" Marcus nodded, his face serious. "I can. I'm not afraid of Travis anymore, not with everyone standing behind me." Jennifer's heart swelled with pride. Her son had grown so much in these past 4 months. He was still a child, but there was a steel in him now, a core of strength that no one could shake. In February, Patricia Green called Jennifer into her office with good news. "We found a housing opportunity for you through one of our partner organizations. It's a subsidized 2-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood, close to Marcus's school and a bus line to the hospital where you work. The rent would be based on your income, making it affordable." Jennifer could hardly believe it. "Really? When?" "After the trial. We want to make sure everything is settled first and that you're ready for the transition. But this is real, Jennifer. You're not going to be homeless. You're going to have a home." That night, Jennifer shared the news with Marcus. They sat together on his bed, looking at photos of the apartment on Patricia's tablet. A modest but clean space with actual bedrooms, a small kitchen, and windows that let in natural light. "Can I decorate my room however I want?" Marcus asked. "However you want," Jennifer confirmed, laughing. "Within reason. I want to put up pictures of motorcycles and maybe a poster of the Iron Brotherhood logo. Is that weird?" "Not weird at all, honey. They're family." The word hung in the air between them. Family. The Iron Brotherhood had become exactly that, a chosen family that had stepped in when Jennifer and Marcus needed it most. Read it too. March arrived with the slow melt of winter snow and the anticipation of the trial. Jennifer barely slept the night before, running through worst-case scenarios in her mind. But when morning came and she dressed Marcus in his best clothes, a button-down shirt and khakis the club had bought for him, she saw no fear in her son's face, only determination. The courthouse was familiar now, but today felt different. Today was the day Travis would face justice. Or not. The thought made Jennifer's stomach churn. The Iron Brotherhood arrived in force. Not just Jax and Amanda, but 12 members total, all wearing their leather vests, all there to support Marcus and Jennifer. They created a protective corridor as the Sullivans walked into the courthouse, a physical manifestation of solidarity and strength. Inside the courtroom, Jennifer sat in the front row, directly behind the prosecutor's table. Jax sat beside her, and Amanda was on her other side. The other club members filled the rows behind them. Their presence was imposing and comforting in equal measure. Travis was brought in wearing a suit his lawyer had provided, an attempt to make him look respectable. But Jennifer could see through the costume. She saw the man who'd terrorized them, the man who'd left bruises on her son's skin, the man who'd threatened to kill her. He looked at her, and she stared back unflinchingly. She didn't look away, didn't flinch. She wanted him to see that she was no longer afraid, that he no longer had power over her. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution presented a devastating case. Photographs of Marcus's bruises, medical reports from Amanda, testimony from neighbors who'd heard the fighting, records of Jennifer's visits to the ER that she'd explained away as accidents, but were clearly injuries from abuse. Detective Richards testified about the condition of the apartment when they'd first investigated, about Marcus's brave disclosure, about the fear she'd witnessed in both mother and child. Then it was Marcus's turn. Jennifer watched her son walk to the witness stand, and her heart hammered in her chest. He looked so small up there, so young, but when he raised his hand to be sworn in, his voice was clear and steady. Maria Santiago began her questions gently, establishing Marcus's identity, his relationship to Travis, the living situation. Then she moved into the harder territory. "Marcus, did Travis ever hurt you?" "Yes." "Can you tell the jury how?" Marcus took a deep breath. "He would grab me really hard and shake me. He pushed me into walls. Once he hit me across the face. He would squeeze my arms until they bruised. He said if I told anyone, he'd make sure I never saw my mom again." "Were you afraid of him?" "Yes, I was afraid all the time. I was afraid for me, and I was afraid for my mom." "Why didn't you tell a teacher or another adult?" because Travis said no one would believe me. He said he'd tell them my mom was a bad person and they'd take me away from her. I couldn't let that happen. My mom is the best person I know." Jennifer wiped tears from her face. Amanda squeezed her hand. The defense attorney's cross-examination was uncomfortable, but not as bad as Jennifer had feared. He tried to suggest that Marcus was exaggerating, that children often have vivid imaginations, that perhaps the bruises came from normal childhood roughhousing. But Marcus held firm to his story because it was the truth. "Sir, I know the difference between playing and being hurt on purpose," Marcus said at one point, his voice respectful but firm. "Travis hurt me on purpose." When Marcus was finally allowed to step down, he walked straight to his mother. Jennifer held him tight, and the judge allowed them a moment before calling a recess. "You did so good, baby," Jennifer whispered. "I'm so proud of you." "Is it over?" Marcus asked. "Almost," Jack said from beside them. "Just closing arguments tomorrow, then the jury decides." The next day, Maria Santiago delivered a powerful closing argument. "This case is about power and abuse. Travis used his size, his age, and his position in the household to terrorize a woman and a child. He told them no one would believe them, that no one would help. He was wrong. Marcus Sullivan is one of the bravest people I've ever met. At 10 years old, he walked into a diner full of strangers and asked for help. That kind of courage deserves justice. Jennifer Sullivan endured months of abuse to protect her son and find a way out. That kind of strength deserves justice. The evidence is overwhelming. The testimony is clear. Travis is guilty, and it's time for him to face the consequences." The defense attorney argued that the case was based on the word of a child, that there was reasonable doubt, that Travis was a flawed man, but not a monster. Jennifer could see the jury wasn't buying it. After 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict: guilty on all counts. Jennifer broke down sobbing, relief flooding through her body like a physical force. Marcus hugged her tight, and behind them, the Iron Brotherhood erupted in quiet cheers and applause. Judge Holloway banged her gavel for order, but she was smiling too. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. At that hearing, Judge Holloway looked at Travis with undisguised disgust. "Mr. Travis, you abused your position of trust to terrorize a child and his mother. You made them prisoners in their own home. The courage they've shown in escaping you and testifying against you is remarkable. I'm sentencing you to 12 years in prison with no possibility of parole for 8 years. When you are released, you will have a permanent restraining order preventing you from contacting Jennifer or Marcus Sullivan in any form. Bailiff, remove him." As Travis was led away, he turned one last time to look at Jennifer. She stared back at him with her head held high. There was no victory in her expression, no gloating, just the quiet strength of a woman who'd reclaimed her life. Outside the courthouse, the March sun shone brightly. Jennifer stood on the steps surrounded by the Iron Brotherhood, Detective Richards, Maria Santiago, Patricia Green, and Dr. Chen, all the people who'd fought for her and Marcus. Jax put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "You did it, kid. You saved yourself and your mom, and now Travis is going to prison for a long time." "How does it feel?" Marcus thought about it seriously. "It feels like I can breathe all the way, like there was this heavy thing on my chest and it's finally gone." "That's freedom," Amanda said softly. "Hold on to that feeling." Lisa Raven stepped forward with an envelope. "This is from the club. We took up a collection, first and last month's rent for your new apartment, plus a little extra for furniture and supplies. You've got a fresh start waiting for you, Jennifer." Jennifer couldn't even speak. She just pulled the biker woman into a hug, then Jax, then Amanda, then all of them. These leather-clad, motorcycle-riding, tough-looking people had saved her life and her son's life. They'd given them not just protection, but hope. Not just resources, but family. 2 weeks later, Jennifer and Marcus moved into their new apartment. The Iron Brotherhood showed up with trucks, carrying donated furniture and helping them set up their new home. Big Mike assembled furniture, muttering colorfully about instructions that made no sense. Tommy installed window locks and a security system he'd donated. Lisa helped Jennifer organize the kitchen. Amanda and Jennifer hung curtains together, while Marcus and some of the other club members set up his bedroom. By evening, the apartment looked like a home. Marcus's room was decorated with motorcycle posters, his artwork, and a framed photo of him with the Iron Brotherhood members, all smiling. Jennifer's room was simple but comfortable. The living room had a couch, a TV, and most importantly, windows that let in lots of light. As the sun set and the club members prepared to leave, Jax pulled Jennifer aside. "You know this isn't goodbye, right? We're still here. You need anything at all, you call." "I know," Jennifer said. "And Jax, thank you for everything. You saved our lives." Jax shook his head. "No, Marcus saved your lives when he walked into that diner. We just helped him do it. That kid is going to do great things someday." After everyone left, and it was just Jennifer and Marcus in their new apartment, they sat together on the couch, looking around at their new beginning. "Mom," Marcus said quietly. "Yeah, baby? Are we going to be okay?" Jennifer looked at her son, this brave, beautiful, resilient boy who'd been through so much and come out stronger. She thought about the journey ahead, the therapy and healing still needed, the financial struggles they'd face, the challenges of rebuilding. But she also thought about the strength they'd discovered, the family they'd found, and the future that was now possible. "Yes," she said with absolute certainty, "we're going to be more than okay. We're going to thrive." Outside, the sound of motorcycle engines rumbled in the distance. Jennifer smiled. The Iron Brotherhood was out there, riding through the night, watching over their own. And she and Marcus were part of that now, part of something bigger than themselves, part of a community built on loyalty, protection, and love. For the first time in years, Jennifer Sullivan fell asleep feeling completely safe. And in the room next door, Marcus dreamed not of fear and violence, but of freedom and open roads. Spring transformed Columbus from a frozen landscape into a city bursting with color. Cherry blossoms bloomed along the Scioto River, tulips pushed through the softening earth, and the air carried the promise of renewal. For Jennifer and Marcus Sullivan, the season's rebirth mirrored their own transformation. It had been 2 months since they'd moved into their apartment, and life had settled into a comfortable routine, the kind of ordinary, peaceful existence Jennifer had once taken for granted, but now cherished like a precious gift. She worked her shifts at Riverside Hospital. Marcus attended school regularly, and their evenings were spent doing homework, cooking simple dinners, and occasionally hosting visits from their extended Iron Brotherhood family. Marcus's 12th birthday fell on a beautiful Saturday in late April. Jennifer had planned a small celebration at their apartment, cake, a few presents she'd carefully budgeted for, and maybe pizza. But when she mentioned it to Amanda during one of their regular coffee meetups, the biker woman had other ideas. "Absolutely not," Amanda said firmly. "Marcus's first birthday as a free kid. We're doing this right. Leave it to us." Jennifer started to protest. They'd already received so much help she didn't want to impose, but Amanda held up a hand. "Jennifer, when are you going to understand that you're family? We don't celebrate family birthdays small. We celebrate them Iron Brotherhood style." "Udoubt." So on Marcus's birthday, Jennifer received instructions to have him ready by noon. When they walked outside their apartment building, they found the entire Iron Brotherhood assembled. 20 motorcycles lined up, engines rumbling, every member present. Jax stood at the front, grinning broadly. "Happy birthday, Marcus. Ready for your first group ride?" Marcus's eyes went wide. "A ride on a motorcycle? With your mom's permission and proper safety gear, absolutely." Jennifer felt a moment of protective hesitation, Motorcycles were dangerous, but then she looked at her son's face, lit up with pure joy and excitement, and she couldn't say no. This was safe. These people would protect Marcus with their lives. Okay, she agreed, but he wears all the safety gear. Already got it. Tommy Wrench came forward with a youth-sized helmet, leather jacket, and gloves. Custom ordered for the birthday boy. Marcus suited up, practically vibrating with excitement. Jax helped him onto the back of his bike, showing him where to put his feet, how to hold on, explaining that he'd take it slow and safe. "Your mom's riding with Amanda," Jax explained. "We're going to ride out to Big Mike's property for a barbecue and celebration. Sound good?" "Sounds amazing," Marcus said, his voice muffled slightly by the helmet. Jennifer climbed onto the back of Amanda's bike, her own helmet secured. She'd ridden with Amanda a few times before and had grown to love the sensation. The wind, the freedom, the feeling of flying while still connected to the earth. The ride was spectacular. They traveled through Columbus and out into the rolling countryside beyond, the motorcycles moving in formation like a flock of powerful chrome birds. Jennifer watched Marcus on Jax's bike ahead of her, saw him leaning into the turns the way Jax taught him, saw him look back at her with the biggest smile she'd ever seen on his face. This is healing, Jennifer thought. This is what freedom looks like. Big Mike's property was impressive. 20 acres of woods and fields with a large house, a workshop, and a massive garage that housed his collection of motorcycles and memorabilia. Behind the house was a pavilion area with picnic tables, a barbecue setup, and a fire pit. As they pulled in, Marcus pulled off his helmet, his hair standing up in every direction, his face flushed with exhilaration. "Mom, that was the best thing ever! Did you see how fast we went and the turns? It was like flying!" Jennifer laughed, her own adrenaline still pumping. "I saw. You were a natural." The celebration was everything a 12-year-old boy could want. Big Mike grilled burgers and hot dogs. There was a huge cake decorated with motorcycles and the words, "Happy Birthday, Marcus, Iron Brotherhood Family." The club members had pitched in for presents, art supplies for Marcus's ever-growing collection of drawings, books, clothes, and most significantly, a motorized dirt bike for kids with training wheels. "You're not ready for a real motorcycle yet," Jax explained as Marcus stared at the dirt bike in awe. "But this will teach you the basics: balance, control, throttle management, under supervision only, on Big Mike's property where it's safe. Deal?" "Deal!" Marcus practically shouted, throwing his arms around Jax's waist in an impulsive hug. The afternoon was filled with laughter, food, and camaraderie. Jennifer sat at one of the picnic tables with Amanda, Lisa, and some of the other women in the club, watching Marcus learn to ride his dirt bike under Jax's careful instruction. The other club members' children played nearby. It turned out many of them had kids Marcus's age, and friendships were quickly forming. "He's a different kid from the one who walked into Maggie's diner 6 months ago," Lisa observed, watching Marcus successfully navigate a turn on the dirt bike and pump his fist in triumph. "We both are," Jennifer admitted. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real. That we're actually safe, that we have a home, that there are people who care about us this much." Amanda smiled warmly. "Believe it, because it's your reality now. And you know what I see? I see you starting to dream again. Tell me I'm wrong." Jennifer was quiet for a moment, then admitted, "You're not wrong. I've been thinking about going back to school. Maybe becoming a registered nurse like you instead of working in the cafeteria. I have my GED and Riverside offers educational assistance for employees. It would take years, but it's possible," Amanda finished. "And you should do it. You're smart, hardworking, and you genuinely care about people. You'd make an excellent nurse. I've also been thinking about volunteering at Safe Haven once I have more time and emotional bandwidth," Jennifer continued, her voice growing more confident. helping other women the way Patricia and everyone there helped me. Is that crazy? Am I ready for that? Lisa leaned forward. Ready or not isn't the question. The question is, do you want to help? If the answer is yes, then you'll figure out how. That's what we all did. Nobody feels 100% ready to help others deal with trauma. You just start and you learn as you go. The conversation was interrupted by Marcus racing over, his face glowing with excitement and exertion. Mom, did you see? I did 5 whole laps. Jack says I'm a natural. I saw, honey. I'm so proud of you. Best birthday ever, Marcus declared, then ran back to the dirt bike for more practice. As the sun began to set, Big Mike lit the fire pit, and the group gathered around it. Someone broke out a guitar, and there was music, folk songs, rock classics, and some original compositions by Tommy, who apparently fancied himself a songwriter. The fire crackled, sending sparks up into the darkening sky, and Jennifer felt a contentment so deep it almost hurt. Jack sat down beside her, handing her a soda. Penny for your thoughts. I was just thinking how lucky we are, Jennifer said. How easily things could have gone differently if Marcus hadn't been brave enough to walk into that diner, if you all hadn't been there that day, if you'd turned us away. But we were there and we didn't turn you away, Jax interrupted gently. You can't live in the what-ifs, Jennifer. You'll drive yourself crazy. Focus on what is. You're safe, Marcus is thriving, you have a community that cares about you, and you have a future full of possibilities. When did you become so wise? Jennifer asked with a slight smile. Jax chuckled. Years of therapy after coming back from deployment. I've spent a lot of time working through trauma, learning to live in the present instead of dwelling on the past or fearing the future. It's a daily practice, not a destination. Do you still have bad days? Sure. I have days when the memories hit hard, when I think about Emily and wish I'd been there to protect her, when I question every decision I've made. But then I remind myself of the good I've done since then. The people the club has helped, the kids we've protected, the women we've supported. That includes you and Marcus. Helping you two has been one of the most meaningful things I've been part of. Jennifer felt tears prick her eyes. You know, when Marcus first told me he wanted to be like you when he grows up, I understood why. You're exactly the kind of man I want him to become. Strong but gentle, protective but not controlling, confident but humble. Jax looked genuinely touched. That's about the highest compliment anyone's ever given me. Thank you, Jennifer. Across the fire, Marcus was demonstrating motorcycle hand signals he'd learned to some of the younger kids, hamming it up and making them laugh. He caught his mother's eye and waved, and she waved back, her heart full. In June, something unexpected happened. Marcus's artwork caught the attention of his art teacher at school. Mrs. Holbrook, a young teacher passionate about nurturing talent, called Jennifer one afternoon to discuss Marcus's abilities. Mrs. Sullivan, your son has genuine artistic talent, she explained. His use of perspective, his attention to detail, his composition, these are advanced skills for a 12-year-old. I'd like to recommend him for a summer art program at the Columbus College of Art and Design. It's for young artists showing exceptional promise. Jennifer felt a surge of pride followed immediately by worry. That sounds amazing, but I'm not sure we can afford. It's fully funded by grants and scholarships for students from lower-income families, Mrs. Holbrook interjected kindly. There would be no cost to you. Transportation can be arranged through the program as well. I really think Marcus would benefit tremendously. That evening, Jennifer discussed the opportunity with Marcus. His initial reaction was enthusiastic, a whole summer learning art from real professional artists. But then hesitation crept in. Would I have to tell them about Travis and everything that happened? Jennifer pulled him close. No, honey. Your art speaks for itself. Your past is part of you, but it doesn't define you. You're Marcus Sullivan, talented artist, brave kid, motorcycle enthusiast, and so much more. That's what they need to know. Okay, Marcus decided. Then I want to do it. The program began in late June and ran for 6 weeks. Jennifer would drop Marcus off in the morning on her way to work, and Amanda, whose nursing shift ended in the afternoon, would pick him up. The arrangement worked perfectly, and more than that, it gave Marcus exposure to a world beyond his limited experience. He came home every day, bursting with excitement about new techniques he'd learned, projects he was working on, and friends he was making. For the first time in his life, Marcus was surrounded by other kids who loved art as much as he did, who understood his need to draw and create, who didn't think it was weird that he carried a sketchbook everywhere. One evening in mid-July, Marcus came home with a special announcement. We're having an exhibition at the end of the program. All the students will display their best work, and families can come see it. There's even going to be a judge who picks pieces for special recognition. Will you come, Mom? Of course I'll be there. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Can we invite the Iron Brotherhood too, their family, and I have a piece I made specifically thinking about them. Jennifer smiled. I think they'd be honored to attend. The exhibition was held on a warm Saturday evening in early August at the college's gallery space. The room was filled with artwork created by dozens of young artists, and the pride and nervous energy in the air was palpable. Jennifer arrived with what seemed like half the Iron Brotherhood. Jax, Amanda, Big Mike, Tommy, Lisa, and several others, all cleaned up and dressed in their nicest clothes, though still wearing their leather vests. They drew attention and curious glances, but they didn't care. They were there to support Marcus. Marcus's section of the exhibition featured 5 pieces. There were his signature motorcycle drawings, now elevated with professional techniques, shading, proportion, and dynamic composition that made the bikes seem ready to leap off the page. But the centerpiece was something different. It was a large canvas painting titled The Iron Shield. It depicted the scene from that first morning at Maggie's diner, but rendered with artistic interpretation rather than photographic realism. In the center stood a small figure, Marcus himself, surrounded by 5 larger figures representing the bikers who'd first helped him. They were painted in protective stances, forming a circle around the child, and their bodies seemed to merge into actual shields of iron, glowing with warm light. Behind them, darkness pressed in, but couldn't penetrate the shield they'd formed. Jennifer stood in front of the painting with tears streaming down her face. Beside her, Jax cleared his throat roughly, clearly emotional. Amanda wasn't even trying to hide her tears. That kid, Big Mike said, his gruff voice thick with feeling, is something special. A well-dressed man in his 50s approached them. Are you folks with Marcus Sullivan? We are, Jax confirmed. Why? The man smiled. I'm Professor Richard Chen, head of the Youth Art Program. I wanted to let you know that Marcus's piece, The Iron Shield, has been selected for the Exceptional Promise Award. It's the highest recognition we give. His technical skill is impressive for his age, but what really stood out was the emotional depth and storytelling in his work. He's a remarkable young artist. Jennifer could barely speak. Thank you so much. When the awards were announced and Marcus was called up to receive his recognition, the Iron Brotherhood erupted in cheers and applause that echoed through the gallery. Marcus blushed but stood tall, accepting his certificate and small scholarship for future art supplies. In his brief acceptance speech, Marcus said, I made this painting about the people who saved my mom and me when we needed help. They showed me that heroes are real and they ride motorcycles. Thank you to the Iron Brotherhood for being my family. There wasn't a dry eye among the bikers. After the exhibition, the group went to Jax's favorite restaurant to celebrate. Over burgers and fries, Professor Chen's words kept circulating in Jennifer's mind. Exceptional promise, remarkable talent, scholarship opportunities. Jax, she said quietly while Marcus was engaged in animated conversation with Tommy about motorcycle engines. Did you ever imagine when Marcus walked into that diner that we'd end up here, that he'd be winning art awards and thriving like this. Jack smiled. Honestly? Yes. I saw the potential in that kid from day one. He was terrified, but he acted anyway. That's the mark of someone with character. The talent and intelligence were always there. They just needed a safe environment to flourish. You gave him that, with our help. No, Jennifer corrected. We gave him that together. I couldn't have done any of this alone. As summer turned to fall, Marcus started 7th grade at a new school closer to their apartment. Jennifer had worried about the transition, but Marcus adjusted well. He'd gained confidence over the past year, and it showed. He made friends easily, joined the art club, and even started talking about trying out for the soccer team. Jennifer had begun taking online classes toward her nursing degree, just one class at a time, fitting it around her work schedule and Marcus's needs. It was slow going, but it was progress. She'd also started volunteering one Saturday a month at Safe Haven Shelter, helping with intake and offering peer support to newly arrived women. It was emotionally challenging, but also deeply rewarding. On October evening, Jennifer returned home from a particularly difficult volunteer shift to find Marcus at the kitchen table doing homework. He looked up and immediately recognized the strain on her face. "Rough day at the shelter?" he asked perceptively. Jennifer nodded, sinking into a chair. There was a new family that came in today, a mom with 3 kids, the youngest only 4 years old. Their situation was so similar to ours, and seeing them so frightened and lost just brought everything back. Marcus got up and made his mother a cup of tea, something he'd learned from watching Amanda, and sat beside her. "But you helped them, right? You showed them they weren't alone?" "I tried. I told them our story, showed them there's hope on the other side of the fear." "Then you did help them," Marcus said with the wisdom of someone who'd lived through trauma and come out stronger. "That's all you can do. Share your story and be there. That's what the Iron Brotherhood did for us." Jennifer looked at her 12-year-old son, constantly amazed by his emotional intelligence and resilience. "When did you get so wise?" Marcus grinned. "I learned from the best. You, Dr. Chen, Jax, Amanda, all of them. Plus, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up." "Oh, still want to join the Iron Brotherhood and help people?" "Yeah, but more specifically, I want to be an art therapist. Dr. Chen told me about it, using art to help people process trauma and emotions. I think I could be good at that, because I understand what it's like to be scared and to use art as an escape. I want to help other kids like me." Jennifer felt her heart swell with pride and love. Her son, who'd been so hurt and frightened, wanted to transform his pain into purpose. "I think that's a beautiful goal, honey, and I know you'll achieve it." "We both will," Marcus said. "You're going to be a nurse, and I'm going to be an art therapist, and we're both going to help people. That's pretty cool, right?" "That's very cool," Jennifer agreed, pulling him into a hug. Later that night, after Marcus had gone to bed, Jennifer stood at her kitchen window, looking out at the Columbus skyline. It had been exactly 1 year since that Saturday morning when Marcus had walked into Maggie's diner and changed their lives forever. 1 year of healing, growing, and rebuilding. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jax. "Thinking of you tonight. 1 year anniversary. Hope you're celebrating how far you've come. Proud of you and Marcus." Jennifer texted back, "We're more than surviving. We're thriving. Thank you for making that possible." Jax's response came quickly. "You made it possible by having the courage to accept help and do the work. We just held the door open. You and Marcus walked through it. That's all you." Jennifer smiled, set down her phone, and allowed herself a moment of pure gratitude. The road hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, difficult days, moments of doubt and fear. The trauma hadn't magically disappeared. She and Marcus both still had triggers, still attended therapy, still worked actively on their healing. But they were safe, they were free, they were loved, and they were building a future neither of them could have imagined a year ago. In the morning, Jennifer would wake up and go to work. She'd attend her online class in the evening. On the weekend, she'd volunteer at the shelter and attend a community ride with the Iron Brotherhood. Marcus would go to school, excel in art class, hang out with friends, and practice dirt bike riding at Big Mike's property. These were ordinary things, the precious, mundane activities of normal life. And for Jennifer and Marcus Sullivan, who'd fought so hard to earn this normalcy, every ordinary day was a victory worth celebrating. 2 years had passed since that pivotal Saturday morning at Maggie's Diner, and Columbus was experiencing one of its most beautiful springs in recent memory. The city bloomed with life, and so did the Sullivan family. Jennifer Sullivan, now 34, had completed her prerequisites and been accepted into Riverside Hospital's nursing program. She'd transitioned from cafeteria work to nursing school in the fall, with the hospital covering most of her tuition in exchange for a commitment to work there after graduation. It was a dream she'd thought impossible, now within reach. Marcus, at 14, had grown several inches and lost the last traces of childhood roundness from his face. He was lanky now, all limbs and energy, with his mother's blonde hair and a smile that came easily and genuinely. He'd become something of a leader among his peers, captain of the school's art club, a peer mediator in the conflict resolution program, and still an honorary member of the Iron Brotherhood who attended most of their community events. The nightmares that had once plagued him came rarely now, and when they did, he had tools to manage them. He'd graduated from regular therapy to check-ins every few months. Dr. Chen had called him a model of resilience, someone who'd taken tremendous trauma and through hard work and support, transformed it into strength and purpose. Travis had served 2 years of his 12-year sentence. Jennifer no longer thought about him daily or even weekly. He was a chapter in her past, not a presence in her present. The restraining order was in place, and she knew that even when he was eventually released, she and Marcus would be safe. They'd built a life he could never touch. One Saturday in May, Jennifer received a call from Patricia Green at Safe Haven Shelter. "Jennifer, I have a favor to ask. We have a new resident, a single mother with a 10-year-old son. Their situation is very similar to what yours was. Domestic violence, child abuse, and the child was actually the one who sought help. She's asking to speak with someone who's been through it. Would you be willing?" Jennifer didn't hesitate. "Of course, when?" "This afternoon, if you're available. I think it would really help her to see someone who's come out the other side." Jennifer drove to Safe Haven, the route familiar now after 2 years of monthly volunteering. The shelter still looked the same, welcoming and safe, but Jennifer saw it differently now. She remembered being the terrified woman arriving here, clutching Marcus's hand, unsure of everything. Now she was the success story, the example of hope. Patricia met her at the door with a warm hug. "Thank you for coming." Her name is Carla Rodriguez, and her son is Miguel. They've been here 3 days. She's still in shock, still processing. Just share your story and let her ask questions. Jennifer was led to the common room, where a woman sat alone on the couch. Carla Rodriguez looked to be in her late 20s, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail and exhaustion written in every line of her body. When she saw Jennifer, she stood uncertainly. "Carla, this is Jennifer Sullivan," Patricia introduced them. "She and her son were residents here 2 years ago, and she's volunteered to talk with you." "Thank you for seeing me," Carla said quietly, her accent carrying the soft rhythms of Puerto Rico. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know how to fix this." Jennifer sat beside her, remembering that feeling all too well. 2 years ago, I sat exactly where you're sitting, feeling exactly what you're feeling. So let me start by telling you something I wish someone had told me on day one, you don't have to fix everything today. You just have to be here, safe, and take it one day at a time. Over the next hour, Jennifer shared her story. Travis's abuse, Marcus's courage, the Iron Brotherhood's intervention, the shelter, the trial, the rebuilding. She didn't sugarcoat the challenges or pretend it had been easy. But she also emphasized the possibility of healing, the availability of support, and the reality that life could be better. Carla listened intently, occasionally wiping tears. When Jennifer finished, Carla said, "Your son was so brave to ask for help." Miguel did the same thing. He told his teacher what was happening, and she called social services. "I should have left sooner. I should have protected him better." "No," Jennifer said firmly, recognizing that guilt because she'd carried it herself. "You survived. You did what you had to do to keep yourself and Miguel alive in an impossible situation. The fact that you're here now means you succeeded. Don't waste energy on guilt. Save it for building your future." "How did you do it? How did you go from this," Carla gestured around the shelter, "to having your own place, going to nursing school, building a new life?" "A lot of help, a lot of therapy, a lot of hard work, and most importantly, refusing to let the past define my future. And I didn't do it alone. I had an entire motorcycle club, shelter staff, lawyers, advocates, and a son who needed me to be strong. You have resources too. Use them. Let people help you." They talked for another hour, Jennifer answering questions about everything from legal proceedings to managing Marcus's trauma to practical matters like finding housing and rebuilding credit. Before she left, Jennifer gave Carla her phone number. "Call me anytime," Jennifer said. "For questions, for support, for anything. I mean that. You're not alone in this." Carla hugged her tightly. "Thank you. You've given me something I didn't have when I walked in here, hope." As Jennifer walked to her car, Patricia caught up with her. "You're a natural at this, Jennifer. Have you ever thought about doing it more formally?" "We're actually looking for a peer advocate coordinator, someone who's been through the system and can connect with residents while also helping organize our volunteer programs. It would be part-time, paid position." Jennifer felt her breath catch. "Are you serious?" "Completely. You have the experience, the empathy, and the credibility. You've already been volunteering consistently. This would just formalize it and compensate you for your time. Think about it." Jennifer drove home in a daze, her mind spinning. A peer advocate coordinator position at Safe Haven would be perfect. Meaningful work, helping others, while also fitting around her nursing school schedule. She could make a real difference in women's and children's lives. That evening, she discussed it with Marcus over dinner. "What do you think, honey? It would mean I'd be busier, especially once nursing school starts." Marcus didn't hesitate. "You should do it, Mom. Remember what you told Carla today. You had people who helped us, and now it's our turn to help others. That's how it works, right?" "When did you get to be 14 going on 40? Jennifer asked with a laugh. "I learned from experience," Marcus said with a grin. "Plus, I'm not a little kid anymore. I can handle more responsibility. I've got the dirt bike at Big Mike's, the art club, my friends, and homework. You don't have to worry about me 24/7 anymore." It was true. Marcus had become increasingly independent and capable. He still needed his mother, but not in the same constant, all-consuming way he had 2 years ago. They'd both grown. "Okay," Jennifer decided. "I'll tell Patricia, yes." The following week, Jennifer accepted the peer advocate coordinator position. She'd work 3 days a week at the shelter, helping new residents navigate the system, organizing volunteer efforts, and serving as a living example that recovery and thriving were possible after abuse. Her first official day coincided with a special event. The Iron Brotherhood was organizing their second annual Ride for Safety fundraiser. 2 years ago, after helping Jennifer and Marcus, the club had decided to formalize their community protection work. They'd partnered with Safe Haven Shelter and other domestic violence organizations to create a fundraising ride that had become a major community event. The ride started at Maggie's Diner, a deliberate choice to honor where Marcus's rescue had begun, and traveled a scenic route through central Ohio before ending at a park where there would be food, music, and family activities. All proceeds went to domestic violence prevention and support services. Jennifer and Marcus arrived at Maggie's early Saturday morning to find dozens of motorcycles already assembled. The event had grown significantly from last year. There were now nearly 100 bikes registered from various clubs and individual riders, all united in the cause of protecting vulnerable families. Maggie herself came out of the diner, now in her 70s but still spry and sharp. She'd become an unofficial grandmother figure to Marcus, always insisting he eat something when he visited, always asking about his artwork. "Look at this turnout," Maggie exclaimed. "Who knew that one brave little boy walking in here 2 years ago would lead to all this?" Marcus blushed but smiled. He'd grown more comfortable with his story and its impact, understanding that it wasn't about him being special, but about ordinary people doing extraordinary things when called to action. Jax approached, looking official with a clipboard and a Ride for Safety t-shirt over his leather vest. "Jennifer, Marcus, glad you made it." "Marcus, I have a question for you. We're doing opening remarks before the ride starts, and we'd like you to say a few words. Would you be comfortable with that?" Marcus's eyes widened. "Like, in front of everyone?" "You don't have to," Jax assured him, "but your story is the reason this event exists. People should hear it from you if you're willing to share." Marcus looked at his mother, who gave him an encouraging nod. "You can do this, honey, but only if you want to." Marcus took a deep breath, then nodded. "Okay, I'll do it." An hour later, as nearly 100 motorcycles idled in the parking lot and surrounding streets, their riders gathered around a makeshift stage. Jax took the microphone first, thanking everyone for participating and explaining where the funds would go. Then he introduced Marcus. 2 years ago, a 10-year-old boy walked into this very diner, approached a table full of strangers wearing motorcycle club vests, and asked for help. That act of courage saved his life and his mother's life. It also inspired this club and this community to do more, to organize, to make sure that every child and parent in danger knows there are people who will fight for them. That boy is here today, and he's going to share his story. Please welcome Marcus Sullivan. Marcus took the microphone, his hand shaking slightly. Jennifer watched from the front row, her heart in her throat, ready to intervene if he needed her. But as Marcus began to speak, his voice grew stronger. "My name is Marcus Sullivan, and 2 years ago, I was living in fear every single day. My mom's boyfriend hurt us, physically and emotionally. We felt trapped and helpless. But I remembered seeing some bikers here at this diner, and I remembered thinking they looked strong and protective. So one morning, I snuck out of my apartment and walked here, terrified, and asked them to arrest me because I didn't know how else to ask for help." The crowd was completely silent, hanging on his every word. Jax, Amanda, Big Mike, Tommy, Lisa, and the others. They didn't turn me away. They didn't tell me it wasn't their problem. They listened, they believed me, and they helped. They called the police, got us to safety, supported us through the trial, and became our family. Because of them, my mom and I are safe. Because of them, I'm standing here today instead of living in fear. Marcus paused, his eyes finding his mother in the crowd. "My mom taught me that when people help you, you pay it forward. You help others. That's why this ride is so important. The money raised today will help other families like mine. It will fund shelters, legal aid, counseling, and all the things that make recovery possible. So thank you for being here. Thank you for riding for people you might never meet but whose lives you're helping to save. Thank you for being heroes." The crowd erupted in applause and cheers. Bikers revved their engines in approval, the sound thunderous and emotional. Jennifer was openly crying, as were Amanda, Lisa, and many others. Jax took the microphone back, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "That's why we ride," he said simply. "Let's hit the road." The procession of motorcycles leaving Maggie's diner was spectacular. Nearly 100 bikes in formation, riding through Columbus with police escort, banners declaring "Ride for Safety," and horns honking in support from people lining the streets. Marcus rode with Jax as he always did for special occasions, and Jennifer rode with Amanda. The wind, the sun, the roar of engines, the sense of community and purpose. Jennifer felt it all washing over her like a benediction. This was what healing looked like. This was what paying it forward meant. This was family. The event at the park was a huge success. They raised over $50,000 for domestic violence services, double what they'd raised the previous year. There were food trucks, live music, activities for kids, and a booth where Safe Haven and other organizations could share information with people who might need it or want to volunteer. Throughout the day, people approached Marcus and Jennifer to thank them for their courage and to share their own stories. Jennifer was struck by how many people had been affected by domestic violence, either personally or through loved ones. It was a hidden epidemic, but events like this brought it into the light and created community awareness and action. Late in the afternoon, as things were winding down, a woman approached Jennifer hesitantly. She was young, maybe mid-20s, with a small child clinging to her leg. "Excuse me, are you Jennifer Sullivan?" the woman asked. "I am. Can I help you?" "My name is Rachel Thompson. I was at Safe Haven about a year ago with my daughter Lily. You were volunteering one Saturday, and you spent time talking with me, telling me your story. I don't know if you remember." "I do remember," Jennifer said, the memory coming back. Rachel had been devastated, convinced her life was over, unable to see any path forward. "I wanted to tell you that your story gave me hope," Rachel continued, tears in her eyes. "You showed me that it was possible to rebuild, to be happy again. And you were right. It's been hard, but I'm in my own apartment now. I have a job I love, and Lily is thriving. We're safe and happy. I saw you here today, and I had to thank you." Jennifer hugged the young woman tightly. "Thank you for telling me. That means more than you know. And I'm so proud of you for doing the work to build your new life." After Rachel walked away, Marcus came over to his mother. "That was cool. You helped her like the Iron Brotherhood helped us." "Yeah," Jennifer said, feeling a profound sense of fulfillment wash over her. That was cool. As the sun began to set over the park, casting golden light across the celebrating crowd, Jax called everyone together for closing remarks. He stood on the small stage with his core Iron Brotherhood members around him: Amanda, Big Mike, Tommy, Lisa, and several others. "Today was incredible," Jax said into the microphone. "We raised over $50,000 for domestic violence services. But more than that, we created awareness. We showed this community that protecting vulnerable families isn't someone else's job. It's all of our responsibility. Every person here made a difference today." He gestured to Jennifer and Marcus. 2 years ago, a scared kid walked into a diner and changed all of our lives. He reminded us why we ride, why we exist as a club, why we wear these patches. It's not about looking tough or being rebels. It's about family, protection, and standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves. Marcus and Jennifer Sullivan showed us what courage looks like, and they continue to inspire us every single day. The crowd erupted in applause. Marcus waved, no longer embarrassed by the attention, but accepting it with grace and humility. That evening, after the event ended and they'd said goodbye to the Iron Brotherhood members, Jennifer and Marcus drove home through the Columbus streets. The city was alive with Saturday night activity, people dining at outdoor restaurants, couples walking hand in hand, families enjoying the beautiful weather. "Mom," Marcus said as they stopped at a red light, "do you ever think about what our lives would be like if I hadn't gone to Maggie's that day?" Jennifer was quiet for a moment, considering. "Sometimes. And honestly, I don't think we would have survived much longer. Travis was escalating. Something terrible was going to happen. But it didn't," Marcus said firmly. "Because we got help. Because people cared. Because the Iron Brotherhood exists. Because you were brave," Jennifer added. "Don't forget that part. You were the catalyst for everything that followed." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "I've been thinking about that speech I gave today. About paying it forward. I want to do more, Mom. When I'm older, I mean. I want to make sure other kids know they can ask for help." "You will," Jennifer assured him. "You already are through your art and your story, and you'll do even more as you get older. But you know what? You don't have to save the world by yourself. That's what community is for. We all do our part." They pulled into their apartment complex parking lot, and Jennifer felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. This modest apartment complex in Columbus, Ohio, was home, truly home in a way their previous apartment with Travis never had been. It was safe, peaceful, filled with laughter and love. As they walked upstairs to their apartment, Marcus said, "Hey Mom, can we have the Iron Brotherhood over for dinner next weekend? I want to make them my famous spaghetti." His famous spaghetti was just boxed pasta with jarred sauce, but he made it with such enthusiasm and pride that everyone always complimented it. Jennifer laughed. "I think they'd love that. We'll invite Jax, Amanda, and Big Mike. Sound good?" "Perfect." Inside their apartment, Jennifer changed into comfortable clothes while Marcus disappeared into his room. She could hear him moving around, probably working on his latest art project. The normalcy of it all still amazed her sometimes. The ability to relax in her own home, without fear, without constantly checking over her shoulder, without the knot of anxiety in her stomach. A knock on Marcus's doorframe made her look up. He stood there, holding a large piece of paper. "I made something today during the downtime at the event. Want to see?" Of course. Marcus showed her a detailed drawing of the park scene. Motorcycles, families, the stage, people laughing and connecting. But at the center of the drawing was a chain, with each link bearing a name. Marcus, Jennifer, Jax, Amanda, Big Mike, Carla, Rachel, Miguel, and dozens of others. Above the chain were the words, "We lift each other up." "It's about connection," Marcus explained. "How one person's courage connects to another person's kindness, which connects to someone else's healing, which connects to another person being saved. We're all links in the chain, making each other stronger." Jennifer felt tears well up. "Marcus, that's beautiful and profound. Can I share this with Patricia at the shelter? I think it would be perfect for their main room." "I made it for them," Marcus said with a shy smile. "I was going to ask if you thought they'd want it. They'll love it. You have such a gift, honey, not just for art, but for seeing what matters and expressing it in ways that touch people's hearts." That night, after Marcus had gone to bed, Jennifer sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of tea and her nursing school materials. She had an exam coming up, and she needed to study. But for a moment, she just sat there, looking around at their home and reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. 2 years ago, she'd been broken, terrified, and hopeless. She'd felt like a failure as a mother, as a woman, as a human being. Travis had systematically destroyed her self-worth, convincing her that she was worthless, that no one would help them, that she deserved the abuse. But Marcus had proven Travis wrong. A 10-year-old child had found the courage to ask for help, and that single act had set in motion a chain of events, exactly like the drawing Marcus had made, that transformed their lives completely. Now Jennifer was a peer advocate coordinator, helping other women find their way out of darkness. She was in nursing school, pursuing a career that would provide stability and purpose. She had a community of support, the Iron Brotherhood, safe haven staff, new friends, and a network of people who genuinely cared about her and Marcus. And Marcus, her beautiful, brave, talented son, was thriving. He had dreams and goals. He was confident and kind. He used his experience not as an excuse, but as motivation to help others. He'd taken trauma and transformed it into purpose. Jennifer's phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Great job today. You and Marcus are amazing. So proud to call you family." She texted back, "Couldn't have done any of it without you all. Thank you for everything. Love you." More texts came in from Jax, Lisa, Big Mike, Patricia, even Maggie from the diner. Each one expressed pride, love, and support. Jennifer read through them all, her heart full to bursting. She thought about Carla Rodriguez at the shelter, just beginning her journey of healing. She thought about Rachel Thompson at the event, celebrating how far she'd come. She thought about the countless other women and children out there right now, living in fear, feeling trapped, believing no one would help them. And she made a promise to herself. She would keep telling her story. She would keep volunteering, keep supporting, keep showing up. Because that's what family did. Chosen family, Iron Brotherhood family, Survivor family. They lifted each other up, link by link, creating an unbreakable chain of strength, courage, and hope. Jennifer opened her nursing textbook and began to study, the apartment quiet except for the occasional sound of traffic outside and the peaceful rhythm of her son's breathing from his room. These were the sounds of safety, of freedom, of home. 2 years ago, Marcus Sullivan had walked into Maggie's diner and asked for help. Today, that scared little boy had become a confident young man, inspiring hundreds of people with his courage and wisdom. And Jennifer Sullivan, who'd once believed she was powerless, had become a beacon of hope for other women fighting their way out of darkness. The Iron Brotherhood had formed a shield around them when they needed it most. Now Jennifer, Marcus, and so many others were extending that shield outward, protecting more families, saving more lives, proving every single day that courage, community, and compassion could triumph over fear and violence. Outside, the Columbus night sparkled with possibility. Inside apartment 3B, Jennifer Sullivan studied for her future, while her son dreamed of his. And surrounding them, visible and invisible, was a network of people who'd fought for them and would continue to fight with them. A family forged not by blood, but by shared purpose, mutual protection, and unconditional love. The road had been long and difficult. The scars remained, both physical and emotional, but they were healing, growing, thriving. They were more than survivors now. They were warriors, advocates, artists, nurses in training, and most importantly, they were free. And that freedom, hard-won and precious, was something they would spend the rest of their lives protecting, for themselves and for every other family still searching for a way out of darkness. Did this story touch your heart in any way? Marcus and Jennifer's journey reminds us that courage can come from the most unexpected places, and that asking for help is not weakness, it's strength. It shows us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather vests and ride motorcycles. And most importantly, it proves that no one is truly alone if they're willing to reach out. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please know that help is available. Reach out to local domestic violence organizations, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline, talk to a trusted friend, teacher, or counselor. Like Marcus discovered, there are people who care and who will fight for you. If this story resonated with you, please leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Hit the like button, share this video with someone who might need to hear this message of hope, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful, real-life inspired stories. Your engagement helps these important messages reach more people who need them. Remember, You are stronger than you know. You deserve safety and respect, and there is always hope for a better tomorrow. Thank you for watching.